What is rootin' and tootin', y'all? It's Jeff, and we are here with the penultimate episode of Season 1 of Ninja Kamui. Dilly's still busy putting in work to defend Joe, but his top concern seems to be... And it's hard to explain, but the way this flashback was presented with the soft hues, I was like... Oh no, they're gonna try and humanize him, aren't they? Of course it's ideal to give characters layers, that's how humans are. However, we've watched Joe be nothing but a man-child from the start, so this doesn't really sway public opinion much. And it's kind of confusing because he starts talking about poverty and liberation, so it's like, does he want to control everyone or not? Now, it does explain Dilly's motives, but dang, the women are quick to sacrifice themselves for the men in this series. It felt to me like this duel between Yamaji and Dilly would be sort of like a clash of ideals, you know, old ninja arts versus this new style, but... I guess objectively the new style wins because even Yamaji gets pimped out in a new mech suit. With all this carnage, it does sort of raise the question, how could any ninja be discreet? Isn't that part of it? I don't know. And I guess Dilly will never know either. Fatality. Somewhat out of the blue, Joe gets confronted by the old chief about his emotional scars. The man starts describing Higan's fight as if he was there, so of course that kind of throws Higan off. Even more so when the chief busts out his JoJo Siwa choreography. At one point, Joe starts explaining his failures as a ninja, such as how he, quote, grew a personality. And I'm just thinking, man, where? He brings this up because he wants to know why the chief has been looking out for him. So to provide answers, we step into the chief's domain. At one point, the ninjas were running the underworld, so it's kind of like they were on top of the bottom. All this secrecy, though, eventually led to them becoming enemies of the state. The chief attempted to find a better life for them, but they were bound by the code. And I just couldn't help but wonder, why? Who wrote it? What is the origin of this code? I definitely hope that's a revelation we get. My perspective's also changed a bit on these characters too. I still do want to know what gets the ninjas involved, but I think that matters less to me now. The point is, they were in a dark place, but the chief saw something in them. It doesn't matter really where we're coming from because we can all end up in that place. What's more important is how you get out. And I gotta say, I really appreciate what a driving force Mari's been, even as a Spectre. She's had just as much influence on the wider world here as Joe himself. And it turns out the chief always admired their conviction to follow their hearts in this way. Although simultaneously he was wrestling with Yamaji, who was going down a real extremist path. Yamaji, though, does seem to be thinking about the organization while Joe and his company are thinking about themselves, which I found sort of interesting. Despite this tension, the chief never lost his cool, never lost his head. Oh, now he claims he was killed by Yamaji, and I just didn't question that probably as much as I should have, so I'm glad Joe did. Even if we did sort of receive a nothing answer in response. Still though, Yamaji's literally cutthroat, and it seems like there is a very small number of people who can deal with him. In fact, there might only be one person, and he is showing some real good character progression. And I'm sorry, but I kinda got a chuckle out of his son being there because it's like, what has this kid done? Elsewhere, Mike's still trying to reason with his old colleagues, but unlike Joe, is making very little progress. He was playing 3D chess though, prepped up with that blackmail when he has Jason leak the data to the public. It's pretty dope actually, he's practically challenging the whole government. I feel like this confrontation initially was a bit dull, but Mike really energized the scene. Which took quite the tonal shift when the gloves came off. What was a pretty tense moment became more like watching your drunk uncles go at it. It's aight though, Yamaji's keeping the suspense alive. And even though Joe's days really seem numbered, he actually doesn't seem too fazed by it. I kind of just assume he's planning to upgrade the robots.
世界の命運を握る男だと
Whatever his plan is, it is real bold of him to be racking up this criminal charges with his chest like this. Yeah, the fight between them, highlight, peak of the episode. Mike seems convinced that Joe is planning to flee the country, so it seems like that's what we should go with, but I'll say that's not the impression I got. If anything, Joe seems pretty obstinate. Either way, he may not get the opportunity to move at all. The world he claimed he wanted to change is changing faster than he could have imagined. Yamaji's unleashed his endgame here, and it seems like he just wants anarchy. And you know, I'm angsty, I can get behind that. So, what was initially a personal revenge mission has now become a quest to restore order to the world. Buckle up, y'all, we are going all over the place. What really stands out to me here in this episode is Higan. Like I said, initially he just wanted revenge. And he still does, but it feels like it's coming from a different place now. It's just not the same raw anger as before. He's fighting with ideals now. That is a big aspect of the series, I feel. You know, as they say, most villains don't think they're villains. And even here, we'll see some real gnarly people claiming justice. It just lacks a bit of nuance when one side is actively murdering people and claiming world domination, and the other side isn't doing that. It just feels like an extra way to add in layers where I don't personally feel like we need them. Despite who's right or wrong though, I still admire that everyone is just standing on business. So I'm genuinely hyped to see between Yamaji and Joe, who's gonna stand taller? Probably Joe. 6.